We are members of the Rotary Club of Innisfil.
We've just had a phenomenal experience.
We've just returned from the Dominican Republic.
And we would like to tell you about our Haitian Humanitarian Assistant Relief Trip adventure.
Last fall we went to our district conference, and Steve Wallace did a presentation on the HHART trip that he had taken his club on last year. Then our president, Al Gilchrist, and his wife immediately signed up to go.
Steve Wallace from the Wasaga Beach Rotary Club did a presentation on this little area in the Dominican Republic just inside the border of Haiti. And I was so overwhelmed with the presentation. I realized watching it, it's something I've always wanted to do, but never really thought too much about. So when the presentation was over, I went over to Steve and I said, I want to go with you. And what was really neat was my wife was right behind me. She said, I'm going too.
One of the things about these Haitian people is they used to work on the sugar canes, the fields. And what happened is the sugar cane fields have gone bankrupt, and the American companies have all pulled out. When the American companies left, they took with them all of the documentation and any information about these workers, which are now stranded in the Dominican Republic without documentation and without accreditation to Dominican. So therefore, they can't get jobs locally because they have no paperwork. They can't leave the Dominican because they have no paperwork, visas, or even documentation of their existence. And even when they have children, if they don't get them properly documented, the children themselves can never get paperwork to actually work in the Dominican.
Steve asked us if the Rotary Club would like to entertain taking it on as an international project. Now our club's only been chartered for a year and a half, and this would be a huge undertaking for a young club like ours. So we went back to the club and we asked, and he came and did a presentation to us, and we all agreed, yes.
I think it was because of the Haiti earthquake, seeing the volunteers go down there, I thought, well, gee, I'd love to go down there and help out. And then when this opportunity arose to go to the Dominican, I jumped at the chance.
The group itself joined in with 13 people, family, friends, and the new people that we met and made friends with and connected to and had fellowship with while we were in the Dominican Republic was absolutely overwhelming. Friends we'll never, ever forget.
The group that went down this year was a mixed bag of people, some Rotarians, some friends of Rotarians, and some just people that heard about the trip and wanted to get involved.
We collected from sponsors like Graphic Apparel, local community projects, the churches and so on. They brought clothes to us, and we were able to take 70 duffel bags of items with us, full hockey bags, if you will. They weighed 50 pounds each. WestJet was generous enough to give us a 2-bag per person, so we could take an extra bag without having to pay for it, which allowed us to bring everything we needed.
So when the Innisfil Rotary Club team went down there, we split into 4 different groups. We had a medical team, a dental team, a construction team, and a distribution team.
So when we got there, we were able to do the distributions with clothing items, and we split it up into ladies' sizes, men's, children, and all the hygiene packs, which had basic needs: toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, razors, and we were able to give those out on each distribution when we went out to the villages to give them to people.
When I went on the trip and I arrived there, I realized that the basic things that we take for granted here in Canada, water, clothing, food, shelter, it doesn't exist for these people. And it was just an unbelievable experience to provide things like that, along with dental care and medical care, and to see the reaction from the people. They're wonderful people. They look after each other. They take care of each other. But to see the reaction on receiving us there and cooperating with us, it was an unbelievable experience. I'll never forget it.
We did 2 milk ministries, and they give you an old-fashioned milk can and a big pot of hard-boiled eggs, and they lined the children up from small to big, and they waited. And all that was allowed in the church at the time were the children. The family members, the rest of the family wasn't allowed in. So the children, they knew they had to behave, they knew they had to hold their cups, They sang and they danced and they praised for getting this gift of their food and we put protein powder in the milk so they would actually get some protein.
My favorite moment down there was lining the children up and bringing them in to get a piece of clothing and a toy during the distribution, and to see their happy faces.
And it was very moving. The children were thrilled when the milk ministries happened. The mothers waited outside for their children to come back out. Very touching. It was a very emotional time for all of us there. They were quite
One of the
happy.
other things that distribution that we did that was really unique was handing out the goats and the chickens.
Oh, the goats.
And when we actually gave 2 chickens to a lady in one of the houses that was very deserving and needed them, she actually just squealed out loud. She was so excited, and she took the chickens and she was almost like hide them so that people can't find out. And then she came back out on her porch and we took pictures with her, and she was so excited because they're laying hens, which means that she's going to have her very own eggs.
Yep, and they were very proud of those.
They're starting to change then from being a handout society to be a self-sustaining society, so they can actually have their own chicken and have their own egg, which generates their own protein source, so they can eat better and live better.
I was able to get involved in the building of a small house, 20 by 20, just a concrete block home, concrete floor, no sanitation, but for the Haitian people in the villages, in the slums, and in the terrible conditions, this was like a little palace to them. And to be able to be involved in building that was a great experience.
There's no insulation, there's no windows per se, there's just shutters to try to keep the rain out during the monsoon season. And we actually got to go up there, lay the block, help pour the concrete, and make this house happen.
One of the things I did was paint shutters for the homes, and this was fun.
In Esperanza, when they dedicate a new house to one of these families, they take the old house that they used to live in, this old batey, this tin shack if you will, and actually tear it down as part of the celebration of changing the village and changing the lives of the family.
The lady that was going to be moving into the house with her small child and her husband, she was at the church for a little ceremony when they made this presentation. And then we went down and we all stood in front of the house that we'd been involved in the building, and we had our photographs taken. But the lady was just, it seemed like she was in shock, because for her to get this was unbelievable.
The one day we handed out 20 mattresses in one of the villages, and in order to be on the list for a mattress you had to request it ahead of time. And there was actually house visits that were done by one of our connections down there previous to our arrival. And so we knew which houses were getting mattresses, and we actually got these mattresses off our truck and we carried them up through the village and knocked on the door and handed these out, and people were so excited to have this mattress that we take for granted in Canada that would be equivalent to a gym mat.
One thing that happened on the trip that I thought was very telling, we had doctors and dentists there. And in the evening, back at the crossroads area, we all ate together, and we had a chance to get up, and people would tell of their experiences that day. And we often think of professional people, doctors, dentists, as above it all, able to handle it all. And a doctor got up and started talking, and she broke down, crying. And it kind of told the whole story. She just found it overwhelming. And but she went back to work, and for the next 6 days, we treated hundreds and hundreds of people. But that one incident brought it home to me how bad it was for a doctor to actually break down and start crying about it.
Until you actually get there, you don't know how you're going to feel or how you're going to react. But I was quite surprised that for the first 5 days, I didn't actually cry as much as I expected to. My whole thought process was I was really angry. I was angry that these people had to live like this, and how other people could treat each other so rough.
It was just, the first couple of days were really shocking. And once you got past that and you understood that these people were just very proud and they wanted to share what they had, and you could accept it for what it was an incredible experience.
For the most part over the week, you had to harden yourself a little bit and figure out, wow, why is this like this? I don't understand how people treat each other the way they do.
We were lucky enough to attend a Rotary Club meeting in the Dominican. And it was lovely because one of the people in the Dominican club could speak English, so we had a translator, and we were very well received. We realized that groups like us going down there are very, very welcome in the community. The Rotary clubs down there realize the good that we do, It was a great time to experience a Rotary Club meeting in another country, and we enjoyed that very much.
What impressed me about this trip was the Haitian people themselves. Despite having nothing, they were happy people. They were very family oriented, like they shared with each other what they had.
Rotarians typically want to help, and that's what we were there for. We wanted to share what we could with the people there and give them a hand, give them medical, give them some construction experience. We went down to try and teach them something so that they could be more self-sustaining, because really they have no experience and very, very little resources, so we're trying to help them.
I found it was sad to leave because we'd built up, with the volunteers, we'd built up relationships, and there was people in the villages that I wanted to go back and see before I left, and I felt there was more I could do. So I was a feeling of, I'm coming back next year. We would like to thank Steve Wallace of the Wasaga Beach Rotary Club, who invited us along on this great adventure.
We would like to thank everyone on behalf of the Rotary Club of Innisfil for assisting us in making this trip possible. And we invite you to join us on our next trip to Crossroads in the Dominican to help the Haitian people.